So I guess this is kind of a part two to filling out the EU, and I want to get you some supplemental materials on this. It'll probably end up just being a list or two lists. But in Solo, we see probably the most understated reveal of all time, in that Darth Maul, who is not in half anymore, is at the end of this film. Like, some of you are like, yeah, I know. I know why he's there. And others might be like, oh, come on. Just 4 weeks ago, I watched him get cut in half and fall down a thing. Like, if you fall down a thing, it's a big deal, right? And like, Luke fell down a hole. Vader checked the Emperor down a hole. Maul falls down a hole in half, like he's supposed to be gone. He's supposed to be dead. Now, what I want to get you is, and I don't know how long this is going to take to put together. It'll depend on basically when I Google it, if someone else has put it together, how quickly it'll go, because I'm still going to give it my tweaks, right? Like Gorm's machete order versus the machete order. So I'll give you Gorm's Darth Maul appendices, right? Where if you want to know what the hell Darth Maul is doing there, watch this stuff. And so that's what I'm going to give you. But there's a few things surrounding Maul that are phenomenal, because for one, this film was almost the first Star Wars film without a lightsaber or lightsaber activation in it, which I was like, okay, I get it. Like, pulling out a lightsaber helps make a point. Like, I'm listening more clearly when there's a damn lightsaber being lit, but it's a hologram. Like, you're not getting stabbed, and it's probably pretty under wraps that one can be force choked from such a distance. Vader shows that off all day, but Kira definitely doesn't know that stuff. So you get Maul like reach out, and that saber flies in, and I'm like, cool, that's amazing, that's awesome. But on the other hand, I'm sitting here like, in real life, like, Maul, you dramatic guy, you were cut in half, and now you got a lightsaber flying in. I mean, it's badass, but also, little dramatic, right? And then he ignites it to shut it off after, and I'm just like, man, that was close. We almost had a Star Wars movie without a lightsaber and without a lightsaber ignition. Further, it helps us understand that the key to a good Star Wars story movie is to close with a dramatic scene with a red lightsaber. All right, that's super important. 100% of Star Wars story films make sure that the drama is enhanced at the end by a red lightsaber. Now, this is really cool because Maul's back. Also really confusing because Maul's back. This, though, does a lot of stuff for filling out the extended universe. As I may have mentioned earlier on, we dealt with, before The Force Awakens, these weird levels of canon. And the most extreme example of this is like the G canon, George Lucas's canon. The films are what is unimpeachable. That happened, and if anything anywhere else disagrees with it, you have a hierarchy. But then what comes underneath? And you get this debate of what's there. The extreme thing is like, oh, in this video game, this character can carry this number of thermal detonators. And so this guy always has 6 thermal detonators. Or she can backflip because her character in this video game does backflip. Right? Like, that's the this classic Star Wars nuance pettiness. Just at its core, right? But what happens is, if you've been doing Star Wars the whole time and did everything, you knew that Maul was alive. And so this is the first movie that really asks you to dive into the other things, the non-film material. So, what happens when you see Darth Maul standing there doing stuff? When the last time you saw him, he was definitely dead. What you do is you say, I know, because I was in the Clone Wars watching that CGA, computer animated, right? Computer generated animation. I don't even know the actual term. Post so I get it right in the future, if you know what I should be calling it. But in the Clone Wars animated series, you see what happens to Maul. And I'm going to get you a list of episodes that gives you just hopefully the bare bones. I'm going to try and whittle it down. So if you just want to know what's up with Maul, up until that point, the smallest amount of episodes you can watch. And then I'm going to grab a list of all the Maul episodes. Anytime you want to know something about Maul, you have that list. So you can be more of a completionist in that way. And then I will have another list that is after what we see, because we do see Maul travel all the way up to kind of like the same space as Rogue One as a prequel to Ep4. And I'll get you a list of those things. I haven't put it together yet, so we'll see what form it ultimately takes, but I want you to have at least those three categories. Maybe I'll find another one as I concoct the list, but I will get that stuff for you. And if you have Disney Plus, you have all of the material you would need for that. But what it does is it forces us to go back to the other content, right? You say, well, Darth Maul, so you Google it. And then you find things like, well, here's what happened to him. And you're like, oh, that's crazy. I want to go watch it. And you don't read the rest of the Wikipedia page with spoilers and all that stuff. So you go back in and you do it. Or you read the whole thing and you're like, that's bananas. And there's still a question of like, well, yeah, Darth Maul got cut in half and he's there. And Qui-Gon got stabbed and he ain't. So there's some stuff going on, although I think it falls in line with what I've said and argued about the notion of immortality and how the Jedi go about it versus how the Sith. I think there's stuff there. I think it's answerable. It's a research question, even though there's no canon to like put your finger on. So this is all the stuff that is just embroiled in putting Maul on the screen, because Maul is alive during the events of those movies of Solo. So why shouldn't he be in Solo? And also, it circles us back to the rest of the extended universe. So it really makes the Clone Wars television series, Rebels, the Disney XD series, it makes those inextricable from the Solo, a Star Wars story, which is kind of the heart of the Star Wars notion and the extended universe, that there's all of this stuff that unfolds and unfolds to make everything else unfold. So that's kind of the heart of the Star Wars EU, and it's kind of cool that Solo is this first EU movie that ties itself to the EU, as opposed to Rogue One, which is this EU stuff that ties itself to the original trilogy. And that's also where I'm kind of seeing the differences between the type of extended universe enterprise that is Rogue One versus Solo. So as far as filling out the EU goes, I think Solo is much more grander in scale. First, it implements a ton of stuff. It gives us a ton of origin story firsts, but also it emanates outward into the extended universe in, if not equal, at least to more things than, say, it does in the Skywalker saga, because there is something to be said about, as much as Harrison Ford, as much as Han Solo is so critical to it. I'm not trying to undersell Han Solo. I'm not trying to make the case that you shouldn't be a Solo fan, that even Solo shouldn't be your favorite part of Star Wars. But it's the Skywalker saga. So Solo is there, but he's this peripheral character. He's part of the team. He does a lot of incredible things, but the story is very much Skywalker. Okay? So that's the arc. And everything else bumps into things that are EU, that are cool, and all this stuff, this filling out of the world, this world building, super critical stuff. Han Solo is inextricable, but he is a supporting character, right? So this is where it's kind of cool because it opens up all of this stuff that has been kicking around. I also think it's kind of cool because Solo, Rogue One aside, might be a little bit more mature than that kid audience, right? But you know who is always up on the Star Wars extended universe? The kids, especially when you've got all of these TV series, right? So you've got an entire generation of individuals who are doing the Clone Wars animated, who are doing Star Wars Rebels. And so these kids can be watching Solo, which is going to be something for the parents, right? For the old fans who are like, Solo's my guy. Let's see this. And you get a much more mature thematic thing going on. You've got spice, drug smuggling. You've got slavery. You have slave trading, human trafficking, or person trafficking, right? And you have all of these things that are happening. And it's the kids, though, who would know that, yeah, Maul's alive. And I can just imagine those cool moments on the ride home where, like, you know, a 10-year-old just rattles off, like, the hours of storytelling that is Maul to show up for a couple seconds in the movie. There's a lot of stuff. That's why I really want to get that list for you. I would love to have been in the car while a 10-year-old lectures their parents, their Star Wars fan parents, on where Maul came from, when the reverse was supposed to be a lecture on Han's big deal. So gang, I think there's a lot of cool stuff happening here. And I mean, that's what I have to say about that. So I will catch you on the boards and in whatever other vids you click on. Be good, gang.